Hey, welcome to the Mentored Engineer. It's Christmas time and I want to wish you a Merry Christmas and talk about Santa conspiracies. Hey, if you like what you see so far, please be sure to smash that like button and subscribe and click that notification bell so I can annoy you at least once a week. Alright, so let's look at this math because I don't think it adds up. I don't think any person, human being, even a spiritual body can withstand this. Alright, so if we look at the numbers, we've got 1.9 billion kiddos on the face of the planet, of which about 15% celebrate Christmas. Yes, it's not common to do it in Hindu and Buddhism and other religions, so we won't count them in. So that's 285 million kiddos that get gifts at Christmas. Alright, and if we look at the average kids per home, it's about 3.5 worldwide. Now, it may actually be a little bit less, so we may have a few more homes to visit. I don't think it's going to matter in our computation here. That would be 81.4 million homes to visit, and we have 36 hours to do this in. How do you get 36, Corey? Night's only 12 hours. All right, well, let me show you on a map how the logistics of Santa getting all these packages out would actually happen. Take it away, Corey. Now let's talk logistics of how Santa gets all this done in 36 hours. All right, pretty big feat. 36 hours comes from the fact that we have 24 different time zones. So even if Santa just went one time zone at a time and did everything in 1 hour going across maybe a narrow strip of land, that's 24 hours that he has to do that work. But we also have from sundown on Christmas Eve, which in Durham, North Carolina, is about 5 o'clock, and then gets sunlight around 7 a.m. So that's a period of 12 hours on top of our 24 hours, so 36 hours. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that when we are dealing with solstice conditions, which is December 21st, so we're almost at the shortest day of the year for Christmas. But in the southern hemisphere, Australia mainly, it is the longest day of the year there. So they may not get dark probably until maybe 10 o'clock or so. So if we were staying in the time zone here, we would have to start at 5 o'clock up here, and as long as we got down to Australia in the same time zone, or New Zealand down there, by 10 o'clock it would start being dark and we could continue here. All right, so going over Santa's probable flight path here, we would probably start up here right along the international date line. So this would be 5 o'clock. Actually, the further north you go, so right up here, he could probably start at maybe 4 o'clock or so. But come down here and go through this area. Now, interestingly enough, there's a large portion of the world that does not celebrate Christmas. It's primarily a European holiday, but it has infiltrated all areas and cultures. But for the most part, China, one of the most populated areas in the world, doesn't celebrate much Christmas. Same with India, the Middle East here. So in this first part, it's gonna go a little faster than you expect, because a lot of Siberia up here is not populated. So we're gonna come down, go down here, New Zealand, and then come up all the way through here, hit Europe, come back down, and hit all of Africa. All right, now once we go to Africa, we're gonna move over here from Africa to South America. Now it may seem like the tip of Africa to the tip of South America is a long distance. It's actually not that long because this is a 2D representation of a 3D globe. So as you are coming down here, these points aren't that far apart. But Santa's, he's just gonna go for it, man. He's just gonna blast on through. The cool fact about the Earth is that because it's spinning, it actually swells out in the center and shortens down at the top and bottom. So that actually makes this distance even smaller. So you might actually go over part of the South Pole, not all the way over it, to do that. All right, and then I'll come up here through the United States, up through Greenland, and then across Canada, and off to Alaska. And then he's done and he can rest for as long as he needs. Back to you in the studio, Corey. So we got 81.4 million homes to visit and 36 hours to deliver it. That gives us 1.5 milliseconds per home. Doesn't seem like much time. Put another way, 628 homes per second. That's ridiculous. I know I couldn't do that, but I'm not Santa Claus. All right, now there's some debate about this number, but I've chosen 0.78 miles between houses as we go. Now there's a lot more populated areas and a lot less populated areas where this might not work, but we're just going to use it. We know it's not correct. You know, if you go to an apartment complex in New York, those things are right next to each other. So, you know, a lot can be said to that. All right, if we just go ahead and divide our distance by our time, that gives us an average, not maximum, average speed of 980 miles per second. And I think the fastest thing that we naturally have, actually not naturally, but we've created, goes 27 miles per second, and that's a space telescope from what I understand. So the average speed is not the top speed. We started at zero velocity, we ended at zero velocity. And if we go to our distance versus time plot here, this is basic kinematics that I'm going to be showing you. We start with a straight line over time, that's 0 miles per hour, that's the slope of this line here, and we end at 0 miles per hour. And we're going to start at position 0 and we're going to end at position 0.78 miles. All right, so to get up here with a constant acceleration and then to get back down with a constant deceleration, we're going to go ahead and integrate this, and we find out the slope of the line right there is 1960 miles per second. All right, that is 1.1% of the speed of light. That's fast. And if you're going to do that, 1.5 milliseconds, oof, I don't know. I don't think a person could handle it. So our acceleration here is 810 million times the force of gravity. All right, so we're accelerating quickly and decelerating quickly. To get an estimate of how much that is, a typical roller coaster, if you're going through a loop, you may have a spot where you get up to 4.5 Gs. If you get past 10 Gs, your eyes will kind of roll back in your head and you'll eventually die if you sustain 10 Gs for a lengthy period of time. And that lengthy period of time is not more than 30 seconds because it will force all the blood out of your head. So 810 million times that? I don't think it's possible. So let's move on. As we know from nature, a reindeer pulls about 300 pounds. It can go at a maximum speed of 15 miles an hour. Now, we're not talking about ordinary reindeer. We're talking about Santa's special flying reindeer, and they can fly because, let's face it, they eat magic corn. Anyway, so if we use a standard reindeer, let's see what our, first of all, we need to know what our payload is, and then we need to find out if 8 or possibly 9 reindeer with Rudolph in the mix would be enough. I don't think it is. Anyway, so our payload would be, we have 285 million kiddos getting gifts, and if we assume that each gift weighs, you know, around 2 pounds, we have a payload of 285,000 tons. All right, and at 300 pounds for each reindeer, that's 1.9 million reindeer needed. So I don't think that those 8 little cute reindeers and Rudolph are gonna pull this thing. No, I mean, even if we said that the average reindeer pulled, 3,000 pounds rather than 300, we're still looking at, 190,000 reindeer to do this. All right, And one thing to keep in mind in all of this weight that has to be accelerated ridiculously fast. All right, there's a general equation is power is related to the speed that it needs to move at to the cubed power. So, you know, if you start off with 1 velocity unit, you end up with 1 times the power. But if you go up to 2 velocity units, you have now made required 8 times the amount of power to do this. So if we're pulling Santa's sleigh at speeds that are approaching the speed of light, that's a lot of power. I don't know how you get all that power out of these reindeer. So once again, I'm gonna say that just isn't possible. I'm going out on a limb here. So wind resistance is an important part of Santa's journey, all right? Now, we are going from east to west around the world. So we have the jet stream that we're working against. And if you've flown anywhere on a long flight, that jet stream, you know, can really speed up your flight or slow it down if it's going the right way. So we got to worry about wind resistance, but maybe not when you got, you know, 200-mile-an-hour jet stream compared to the, you know, 1.1% of the speed of light that you're traveling against. So I doubt wind resistance would be enough. But if you remember, in low atmosphere, when the astronauts come back in, they have all those heat shields and whatnot to absorb all the energy as they cut through at really fast speeds. Not this fast of a speed though. Through, you know, the atmosphere, that whole bottom of the ship lights up red, and man, it's hot in there. And if any one of those panels fail, that's it, they're done. All right, well, reindeer don't have all this stuff on them anyway. They don't have heat shields, they're just reindeer. They're flying around. So I think a reindeer would be vaporized just because of the heat of what they're trying to do within, you know, a millisecond or so. So I think that would just be too much energy for them to absorb unless they got some special reindeer suit that I don't know about that's, you know, awesome and doesn't degrade and whatever. I don't know. So there's some other things that we need to talk about with Santa that just don't make sense. Santa's known for being a big, fat guy. And I know fat people, they are usually lazy. And lazy is slow. So this Santa guy going all the way around the world in 36 hours, I just don't see it. All right, plus we got other practical things of the 20th and 21st century here, getting around security systems. All right, now if he's going 628 houses per second, he could just set them off, whatever. Bust down the doors, drop down the chimney, get in, get out, whatever. So I guess I can play that one off. Let's say a Second Amendment supporters dodging bullets, right? Guy breaks in your house, you want a bit? But I can get around this one too, because if he's doing 628 houses a second, I'm probably not even gonna notice it. Presents are just gonna be there, right? All right. And this all leads to, have we ever even really seen Santa deliver a present? I don't think we have. I haven't seen him. And it's probably, once again, because 628 houses per second. All right, so here we are, ready for what I think, the mentored engineer, I think is a conspiracy, but I think this is the only solution that makes sense to all these problems. All right, the first big problem we have is the weight being pulled by a bunch of reindeer. You can't have 1.9 million reindeer pulling a sleigh that weighs 1 billion pounds, okay? Just doesn't work. All right, so the first thing we have is we have multiple pre-prepared sleighs staggered all across the world in warehouses and whatnot, with fresh crews of reindeer that are ready to go, and Santa gets there and he changes into his old sleigh for the new sleigh, and boom, he's off again. All right, boom, 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 boom. That makes sense. All right, but it really doesn't solve the time problem. 628 houses a second for 36 hours. That guy's got to take a break, man. Got to poop. Anyway, why don't we have multiple drivers for these extra sleighs? Makes sense, right? If you got 2 Santas, who's gonna know, man? But that gets us down to 314 houses per second. you had 3, it'd be even better. It's, you know, 200 something houses. If we got all these extra slaves, why don't we have extra drivers? You know, maybe there's like 1 million of these guys. So if we deal with the speed problem and the power and the reindeers vaporizing, if we have more multiple drivers and multiple crews, multiple sleighs, we can reduce our speed by a little bit each time. And let's just say, you know, if there were like millions of these crews, they could do this. But yeah, well, I don't know, that's kind of kooky. I mean, what do you think the odds are that you actually know somebody who drives one of these sleighs? What if it was your parents? Hey, but I'm just a conspiracy theorist, okay? So, you know, just ignore all this. Hey, everybody, have a Merry Christmas.